My name is Emily Sprague. I'm a member of West Raleigh Presbyterian Church, and my honoree is Mary Jane Patterson. She was the first African American woman to graduate with a bachelor's degree from college, and she's been a real inspiration for me. She was born about 1840 in Raleigh, North Carolina, into a black family. It's not clear whether her father was a freed slave or whether she was actually born into slavery. But the family did move to Oberlin, Ohio in the mid-1850s. Her father was a stonemason and he worked at Oberlin College. And she and three or four of her siblings all attended Oberlin College. Her sisters just took the 1-year preparatory course for women. And she completed that course and then didn't see any reason to stop her education. So she continued on and until she got a bachelor's degree. And she studied Latin and Greek and calculus and history and literature and graduated with honors, with high honors, in 1862 from Oberlin College. She started out as a teacher, and a couple of years later she was made principal. Then the first African-American graduate of Harvard came. He was recruited and he came as the principal for a year, but then he left. He went on to bigger and better things, I guess. And so she was reinstated as the principal, and she did that for the next 11 years until 1884. And in her tenure, the school grew by leaps and bounds. It prospered. And then it reached the point in 1884 where the board got together and said, with a school this big and with so much going on, we need a man to be running it. And so she stepped down, and there's not a whole lot known about her as related to the school after that. We assume that she went back to teaching for the rest of her life at that school. And she died, Mary Jane Patterson died at a relatively young age, at the age of 54 in 1894.
Ready?
Yeah.
My name is Carla Wilkins, and I go to Wilson Temple United Methodist Church. I'm the president of the usher board at the church. And my mother also went to Wilson Temple United Methodist Church. And so my theme for my quilt is Mother's Love. And her name is Clarice Cotton. Now this is where her daycare was, Nichols Daycare. She's been there for 35 years in her home down in the basement. And this also is my mom. She's getting ready to go to church, dressed up for church. And down here is down in the basement. And that's my little nephew there, and then I can't remember who. I think that little child has his face covered. But we have the Ernie and Bert on the top of the board there that we had grouped, and so we can put them on the board. And this is my son Kenneth, and that's my niece Shamir, and he's playing the Fraggle Rock drums that he used to want to play drums. And that's him also, Kenneth. And that's my niece. And that's my other niece. And that's my sister that's deceased. She was working down there with Mom at that time. And he was 3 years old, so that's his Big Bird Kate right there that he loved Big Bird at that time. And these are some more kids here that Mama kept. And one of the girls that go to church, Velma Board, this is her daughter right there. Mama kept her daughter and other kids in the community. And she worked in the church as a community stewardess when she was up and able to come. And she was, till her health failed her, she had dementia. And she was the mother of 8 children. Mm-hmm.
So obviously you care a lot about family.
Oh, yes, yes. She taught us how to do and how to do it when time was of what we need to do it at that time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Love you, Mom.
Well, my name is Sue Rodkin, and I joined this group not knowing what it was going to be like, but I love to quilt, and I thought it would be a great experience, and it indeed was a wonderful experience. I chose Willie. Willie was born from Raleigh, 1894, and she died in 1992. Lived in Raleigh most of her life. She was raised the daughter of a barber who had a shop downtown, and big family. She went to Shaw University, got a degree in home economics, and she met her husband at Shaw University, John Kay, who became a physician. They moved to Wilmington, had 7 children, and unfortunately he had a poor outcome surgery and died at a very young age. She was left with 7 children and realized she was going to have to support this crew. She came back to Raleigh where her family was and started a dressmaking shop. Long story short, she became probably the most well-known, revered, treasured, respected dressmaker in North Carolina. She designed on scraps of paper. She never used a pattern. She designed wedding dresses, debutante dresses, christening dresses, and because of her strong faith, she even did ecclesiastical garments for ministers and the rectors at her St. Aug's Episcopal Church. Her sisters would join in and help with the stitching. She had a niece that became very skilled in her own right with beading. But she was desired. Socialites would plan the event around her schedule. If Willie said, I can't do a dress for you for 6 or 9 months, then that wedding got put off 6 or 9 months. So Willie was in charge. One of the most noteworthy things about Willie is how she distributed her talents. She had clients that were African American and white, and it was very important to her that she attended to them equally. McCall's magazine did a spread on her in 1935, and in 1951, some of her debutantes were on the cover of Life magazine. In 2016, the North Carolina Museum of History did a big display exhibition of her work, which you can find online, and it's really cool because you just can't believe her talent and craftsmanship, the fit, the precision. It's just remarkable. So I'm a real fan.
My name is Susan Randolph, and I'm a member of West Raleigh Presbyterian Church, and my honoree is Molly Houston Lee. She worked as a student assistant librarian at Howard University and worked with a librarian there, A.C. Williams, and really became inspired through him. After she graduated from Howard, she received a scholarship to go to Columbia University, and she received a degree in library science there. When she left Columbia, she moved to Raleigh in 1930, and she worked at Shaw University as their librarian. And while she was working there, she realized there was a need for literature, Black literature, for African Americans around that community, and decided that she needed to promote that education for them. And at the time, this was really important because at that time, Raleigh did not allow African Americans to have access to public libraries. So he was a real champion of equity in learning and in libraries. She opened a small storefront library on East Hargett Street and had a very extensive collection of books and other resources that were written by and for African Americans, and became the first Black librarian in Wake County. This was just really important and inspiring for her. She also met with the mayor of Raleigh, Mr. Wisley, and to discuss creating a Black library for African Americans, and eventually opened the Harrison Library, which was located on New Bern Avenue in 1935. And that was just so important for Raleigh. She also realized that not everyone could travel there, and focused on outreach and how she could deliver library services to them. She gave some library books to local businesses, so as people went in there to go to that establishment, they could see library books, and also had library books in the nearby medical facilities, again, trying to increase that outreach. She also valued education. She trained library science students at the Harrison Library. She served as the supervisor of the Negro Library Services from 1946 to 1953. She retired from public service in June 30 of 1972. So she had a long 40-year career in library sciences and really promoting access and equity.
Hello, my name is Velma Boyd, and I'm a member of Wilson Temple United Methodist Church in the Oberlin area. And I have as my subject Emily Rose Morgan Good. Emily was born in Raleigh and was raised in the Oberlin Village area. She went to school there. She graduated from Shaw University with a major in English, and she got her master's at North Carolina Central University in library science. Emily was a very resilient person. She was a military spouse, so after her education, she traveled with her husband to many countries, which helped her to develop a very strong liking for travel. Emily became a teacher when she first graduated from Shaw, and in her travels, she used her education to teach many different countries. She also served as a librarian in Switzerland. Emily enjoyed travel, and because of the travel that she did, she was able to pick up many different cultures. Those cultures she shared with her community when she returned to Raleigh. She was great at entertaining, and she was a very quiet spirit. And that quiet spirit was her big voice. You don't have to have a big voice, a loud mouth to make a difference. And her spirit, her quiet spirit, with her quiet spirit, she was able to touch a lot of people. They would listen to what she had to say.
So in working with Mrs. Holt, I was so fortunate when I Googled Broughton High School, there was an old postcard, and that gave me the incentive to create the high school as a major part of this quilt. And in that process, I thought, oh, I should put a lock on the door of the school. And I found a tiny lock, but the lock came with a key. And so then I began to think, oh my goodness, how do I incorporate the key? And I decided to put the key right here in the middle of her pearl necklace as it hung on her chest just above her heart. And then being the fact that they were trying in 1956, 57, 58 to have their son enrolled and were consistently denied, that's when it led me to decide to put the Supreme Court building on the quilt, because the Brown versus Board decision was in 1954. And so this family had every right to have their son attend the neighborhood school.
Hi there. My name is Rachel Nicholson, and I'm a member of West Raleigh Presbyterian Church and the Arts Ministry, which is 10 years. We're celebrating our 10th year this year. And I chose Lucille Hunter for my choice, my first choice. And it was because I knew something about Hunter Elementary School is the reason, and also because she was so serene and so beautiful, and I just wanted to do a portrait of her. This was the first African American teacher in North Carolina to have a school named after her. Miss Hunter was known for loving poetry. She had a great sense of humor, and she was very generous and loving towards people. During the Depression, which started in 1929, the school, Hunter Elementary School, was a place of warmth and acceptance for many Black children. And some of the older ones actually had to drop out of school and help their parents to support the family and their younger siblings. It was a place of security for the Black children. And in 1971, integration came to North Carolina, and the Hunter School was used as a 6th grade center. 2 of my children attended Hunter, and they both loved the school and flourished from its diversity and warmth. Hunter offered orchestra in 1st and 2nd grade. It offered classes in drama, dance, and the fine arts to these young children. It was a great start for both of them. I felt like the loving care that Lucille Hunter started is still going on now, almost 100 years later, and was felt by my children and my grandchildren. This quilt was a real challenge for me. I listened to her sing and play the guitar several times and read about her. And I felt like she was kind of a jazzy person. And she did have a jazz style, or not jazz, but there's another name they call, I can't remember now, but it was not bluegrass either. You can cut all this out. Okay. But I wanted something that really represented the energy that the guitar you would feel from the guitar, and I wanted it to be colorful because I always felt Libba was a colorful person. the way she worked her life so that she got into positions of, you know, joining with people that helped her get ahead and also to develop as a musician. I just wanted to do her justice because she was such a great performer. And goodness, she performed. She didn't even reach her performance prime until she was like 60 or 70.
My name is Joyce Watkins King, and I'm a member of the arts ministry at West Raleigh Presbyterian Church. And my honoree is Millie Dunn Veazey. And I chose her because she has the same last name as my paternal grandmother, same maiden name. So I was intrigued by that. Millie Dunn Veazey was born in 1918 and died in 2018. So she was a centenarian by about 3 months. She grew up just 6 blocks from the Capitol, where she had 6 brothers and sisters. And she was very smart. She loved school, and it was her dream to go to college, but she could not afford to go to college. Fortunately, or unfortunately, an opportunity came for her to enlist in World War II. And she served in both England and France for a total of about 3 years before she came back to Raleigh. And that was when she enlisted in St. Aug's or St. Augustine's, and she got her bachelor's degree in business. And after that, she taught middle school for about 7 years, and then decided she wanted to get an advanced degree. So she went to North Carolina Central University and got her master's in business and counseling. After she finished her master's degree, she went back to St. Aug's, where she served as the chief administrator to the president for quite a few years, and learned how much she loved working with the students. So then she became the director of career counseling and planning, where her entire job was working with students and helping them get their first jobs out of school. Also active in the Wake County chapter of the NAACP, she became the first female president of a chapter in the state of North Carolina. She participated in sit-ins throughout Raleigh and the Triangle area in an effort to integrate lunch counters, and she served on the state and national committees of the NAACP as well. It was there that she first met Dr. Martin Luther King. And when Dr. King traveled through our area, or came to give his first speech in our area at Broughton High School, he stayed in her home, because at that time it was much safer for him to stay in a private home than in a hotel. Through Dr. King, she also made the acquaintance of the first African-American Supreme Court Justice, Thurgood Marshall, and he also stayed with her whenever he traveled through the area. In 1963, she helped organize a bus trip to hear Dr. King's speech on the Mall. Millie's 100-year legacy helped change the perception of women of color and their capabilities. She says it was her grandmother, who was a pillar of First Baptist Church Raleigh, who inspired her toward a life of service. And then just before her death, she was honored with the Congressional Black Caucus Distinguished Veteran Living Legend Award. Unfortunately, she did not get to make the trip. She died about 3 days later, but she did get that wonderful award that she so deserved. Millie, I sure have enjoyed getting to know you throughout this process, and I would have loved to have met you, but I feel like we've become close friends in the process. Yours was definitely a life well lived.
My name is Patty Merrill, and the person I chose to honor was Anna Julia Haywood Cooper. The reason is that I thought she was a self-made woman, and she was born into slavery, and she was definitely ahead of her time in terms of her views of Black feminism and Black education, which she thought that educating Black people was a vehicle for social transformation. She also raised her brother's 5 grandchildren, and she raised 2 more foster kids. She was born in 1858 to her enslaved mother and the man that owned them both. She was extremely intelligent, and she was an avid learner. She started St. Augustine's at age 6, which at that time was a school from grades 1 through 12. At age 10, she became a tutor. She had to fight to take some of the classes she wanted to take, because she wanted to take some of the classical education courses such as Greek, and so they finally let her in, which paved the way for other women to be able to take those courses. She went to Oberlin for college, and she got her undergraduate and her master's degree there in mathematics, and she also had to fight to take the courses she wanted to take there, because many of the courses were reserved for men only. She moved to DC afterwards and to teach, and she taught at a very famous school called the M School. At a later date, the name changed, but she also had to fight there to teach the classes she wanted to teach, because she believed in teaching higher level courses such as classic literature, foreign languages, higher level mathematics to her students there. And at the time, the board insisted that her Black students needed to be taught more vocational classes rather than these other classes, but she thought that it was important, and that she wanted for them to be part of the growth of the country. And many of her students were actually admitted to Harvard, Brown, and other elite colleges. So she got her PhD when she was 67 years old from the University of Paris. She wrote a book called A Voice of the South by a Black woman of the South, and it is considered to be a classic in African-American feminism. In 2009, the Postal Service honored her with a stamp, and she's the only woman quoted in the US passport. And I'm gonna read you that quote. "The cause of freedom is not the cause of a race or sect, a party or class. It is the cause of humankind, the very birthright of humanity." And that was Anna Julia Haywood Cooper.
Hello, my name is Barbara Blackburn, and I'm part of the Wilson Temple United Methodist Church Sewing Ministry. And my subject is Darlene Andrews Coleman. Darlene was born in High Point, North Carolina. And as a young child, her and her parents moved to the Oberlin area. She attended Oberlin School and also the Allen High School for Girls in Asheville, North Carolina. When she graduated high school, she actually attended St. Augustine College, which is now St. Augustine University, with a degree in education. Darlene loved kids, and she spent over 40 years in the Wake County public school system, teaching kids to read, which she loved to do. Darlene was a part of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, along with Eta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, where she served in many capacities. She also loved volunteering, and she volunteered with the Loaves and Fishes group. And she also taught refugees English, which fed into her love for reading. Darlene also was a member of Wilson Temple United Methodist Church, where she sang in the choir. She actually started the children's choir. And after she retired, she actually taught kids in the Oberlin community piano lessons and music. Darlene's voice, soprano voice, could be heard throughout the church on any given Sunday. We will miss her.